Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like the person staring back wasn't quite you anymore? Like time has slowly dimmed your spark, leaving you feeling invisible, not just to the world, but to yourself? I know that feeling all too well. At 78, I thought my days of feeling vibrant and alive were behind me, until I discovered something simple, natural, and transformative that changed everything. In this video, I'm sharing my journey of rediscovering myself with a single bottle of rose hip oil, the mistakes I made, the weekly changes I saw, and how it not only rejuvenated my skin but brought back my confidence and joy. You need to watch until the end because I'll reveal exactly how I did it, the oil I used, and the small, consistent steps you can take to feel radiant again, no matter your age, because it's never too late to choose yourself and rediscover your own beauty. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know, so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. What motivated me to try this oil? For years, I found myself caught in an endless cycle of chasing the fountain of youth through an array of skincare products. I tried everything the market had to offer: anti-aging creams with sleek packaging, serums boasting unpronounceable chemical names, and so-called miracle formulas that promised to erase wrinkles in mere days. Some arrived in glossy, embossed bottles, their contents exuding sophisticated aromas of lavender or exotic fruits. Others came with price tags so exorbitant they rivaled what I'd spend on groceries for an entire week. I'd stand in front of the mirror, applying these potions with hope, only to be met with disappointment time and again. The results were always the same, or rather, the lack thereof. At best, a cream might offer a fleeting moment of hydration, leaving my skin soft for a few hours before it reverted to its parched, weary state. My cheeks remained dry, with a texture that felt rough under my fingertips. The delicate skin beneath my eyes was so thin it seemed almost translucent, like fragile tissue paper. The wrinkles, those stubborn lines etched across my forehead and around my mouth, remained resolute, mocking my efforts. With each failed product, my frustration deepened, a quiet resentment building against an industry that seemed to thrive on unfulfilled promises. Over time, I began to resign myself to the idea that this was simply what aging looked like. Perhaps, I thought, old age demanded acceptance, a graceful surrender to the inevitable. I told myself I should embrace the lines on my face, wear them as badges of a life well lived. But deep within, a small, defiant spark refused to dim. It wasn't about vanity or clinging to youth for the sake of appearances. No, it was something more profound. Every wrinkle, every mark on my skin, whispered of time's relentless march, and at 78, I felt I still had so much life left to live, so many moments to savor. I wasn't ready to let my reflection tell a story of fatigue when my heart still pulsed with vitality. One crisp autumn afternoon, while accompanying my daughter on her errands, we wandered into a quaint little shop tucked away on a quiet street. It was the kind of place that felt like a sanctuary the moment you stepped inside. The air carried the earthy scent of cedarwood and dried herbs, and soft, golden light filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow over shelves lined with glass bottles and jars. My daughter busied herself browsing teas and spices, but I found myself drawn to a corner display of plant-based oils. I hadn't come looking for skincare solutions. My faith in them had long since waned, but something about those unassuming bottles, their amber liquid catching the light, piqued my curiosity. As I stood there, tracing my fingers along the labels, the shop owner approached. She was an older woman, perhaps in her late 80s, with snow-white hair pulled back in a loose bun. Her skin, though marked by time, radiated a serene vitality, smooth, luminous, and alive in a way that felt almost timeless. "If I may offer a piece of advice," she said, her voice warm and steady, her eyes crinkling with a kind smile, "stop searching for magic potions. Your skin is like a plant. It needs nourishment, patience, and care day after day." She reached for a small bottle of oil and placed it in my hand, explaining that she had been using it herself for over a decade. "This isn't about miracles," she said. "It's about consistency. Apply it every night, breathe deeply, and give it time. In a few weeks, you'll see." Her words were unhurried, grounded in a quiet confidence that stirred something inside me. It wasn't the promise of transformation that moved me, but the simplicity of her approach, the idea that caring for my skin could be an act of nurturing rather than a battle against time. That evening, I returned home with a small bottle tucked in my bag. My expectations were tempered. I'd been burned too many times by lofty claims. Yet, there was something different about this choice. It wasn't backed by a multinational brand or flashy advertising. It was a humble gesture, a quiet invitation to give my skin a second chance. I wasn't chasing eternal youth anymore. At 78, I wanted to reconnect with myself, to feel that taking care of my body was still meaningful, still worth the effort. That night, as I sat at my vanity, I made a decision. I would give this oil a real chance, not for miracles, but for me. What is this oil, and why is it so powerful? The oil I've been describing isn't some rare elixir sourced from distant lands or a closely guarded secret. In fact, it's something you've likely heard of before, perhaps even dismissed as too simple to make a difference. It's rosehip oil, unassuming, natural, and steeped in a history that predates modern skincare trends. When I first learned its name, I was almost skeptical of its simplicity. No glossy campaigns, no celebrity endorsements, just a pure, plant-derived oil that has been used for centuries. Yet, it was this very lack of pretense that convinced me to try it. Rosehip oil comes from the seeds of the wild rose plant, often harvested in regions like Chile, where the Mapuche women have relied on it for generations. Stories abound of their radiant, resilient skin, even in old age, with scars faded and wrinkles softened by this golden oil. I couldn't help but wonder, if it worked for them, could it work for me? The shop owner's glowing complexion was proof enough that there was something to this remedy, something worth exploring. What makes rosehip oil so remarkable is its composition. It's a powerhouse of nutrients that work in harmony with the skin. Rich in vitamin A, a natural form of retinol, it supports cell regeneration, encouraging the skin to renew itself and smooth out rough textures over time. Its high vitamin C content acts as a potent antioxidant, combating free radicals that dull the skin and restoring a subtle, healthy glow. Then there are the essential fatty acids, omega-3, 6, and 9, which penetrate deeply to nourish and hydrate, helping the skin maintain its elasticity and firmness. Unlike many commercial creams that sit on the surface, leaving a greasy residue or clogging pores, rosehip oil absorbs effortlessly, as if the skin recognizes it as a friend. For years, I had slathered on expensive creams, some so thick they left my face feeling suffocated, others so harsh they caused redness or irritation. I'd grown accustomed to disappointment, to products that promised the moon but delivered little more than a temporary sheen. Rosehip oil was different. From the first proper application, I felt a shift. It wasn't just a surface-level softness, it was a deep, nourishing sensation, as if my skin was finally being fed something it had craved for years. The oil sank in without leaving a trace of greasiness, and my face felt supple, alive, almost grateful. Scientific studies back up what generations of users have known. Research has shown that rosehip oil can reduce the appearance of scars, fine lines, and age spots, thanks to its ability to support skin repair and regeneration. It doesn't rewind time, no product can, but it helps the skin tell a gentler story, one where the marks of age are softened, not erased. What I came to love most about this oil was its simplicity. It didn't require a 10-step routine or a cabinet full of complementary products. Just a few drops, applied with intention, and a commitment to consistency. Over weeks, my skin began to transform, not dramatically, not overnight, but in a way that felt real and lasting. The beauty of rosehip oil lies in its quiet power. It doesn't shout its benefits or demand attention. It works slowly, steadily, rewarding patience with results that feel earned. As my skin began to change, less dry, more luminous, with softer lines, I realized I wasn't just caring for my face. I was reclaiming a small piece of myself, honoring the years I'd lived and the years I still had ahead. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. My journey with rosehip oil. Mistakes and lessons. The first night I used rosehip oil, I sat at my bedroom vanity, the small amber bottle glowing softly under the lamplight. I held it in my hands, feeling a mix of skepticism and quiet hope. After years of failed experiments with creams and serums, I wasn't sure what to expect. I unscrewed the cap, tipped a few drops onto my fingertips, and smoothed them across my face, mimicking the motions I'd seen in countless skincare tutorials. I thought that was it. Simple enough. But as I would soon learn, there was an art to using this oil, and I was about to make every beginner's mistake in the book. My first misstep was over-application. In my eagerness, I assumed that more oil would mean better results. I poured generous amounts into my palm, slathering it across my cheeks, forehead, and chin. The result? My face felt coated, as if I dipped it in a vat of olive oil. That night, I tossed and turned, the sticky residue clinging to my pillowcase, leaving me uncomfortable and doubting my choice. When I woke up, my skin felt no different. Still dry, still tired. I realized the oil hadn't absorbed properly. I'd overwhelmed my skin instead of nourishing it. My second mistake was neglecting proper preparation. Some nights, I applied the oil without cleansing my face, a habit born of laziness and the assumption that my makeup-free skin was clean enough. But skin, I learned, is a canvas that collects the day's residue: dust, sweat, natural oils, and environmental pollutants. By skipping a thorough cleanse, I was essentially trapping those impurities under the oil, preventing it from penetrating deeply. The results were lackluster, and I began to wonder if the shop owner's advice had been overstated. Perhaps my most significant error was ignoring the oil's sensitivity to sunlight. Unaware of its photosensitizing properties, I began applying it in the mornings before heading out for my daily walks. I didn't think to pair it with sunscreen, assuming my usual light moisturizer was protection enough. Thankfully, I avoided any serious damage like sunspots, but I was taking an unnecessary risk that could have undone any benefits the oil might offer. Frustrated but unwilling to give up, I decided to educate myself. I scoured books, read testimonials from others who had used rose hip oil, and even called the shop owner for advice. Slowly, I refined my approach. I established a proper nighttime routine. First, I cleansed my face with warm water and a gentle, fragrance-free soap, taking care to remove every trace of the day. I patted my skin dry with a soft, clean towel, avoiding the harsh rubbing I'd once done absent-mindedly. Next, I learned to use the oil sparingly. 3 to 5 drops were enough. I warmed the drops between my palms, releasing a faint, earthy scent that felt grounding. With slow, deliberate circular motions, I massaged the oil into my skin, starting from the center of my face and moving outward. I avoided the delicate skin around my eyes and kept the room dimly lit, as I'd read that light could degrade the oil's potency. This ritual became a sacred moment, a pause in my day where I could focus on myself. Sometimes, I played soft instrumental music in the background, letting the notes weave through the quiet as I breathed deeply, letting go of the day's stresses. The changes didn't come overnight, but by the second week, I noticed subtle shifts. My skin no longer felt tight or parched when I woke up. It was as if it had been quenched, hydrated from within. The fine lines on my forehead, once sharp and pronounced, began to soften, their edges less defined. Most striking was the glow, a gentle, natural radiance that made my reflection feel alive again. It wasn't the dramatic transformation promised by glossy ads, but it was real, tangible, and deeply personal. As the weeks passed, I realized the true power of rose hip oil lay not just in its nutrients but in the ritual it inspired. It taught me to slow down, to care for myself with intention. It wasn't about erasing my age but about embracing it with grace and vitality. For the first time in years, I felt I was on the right path, and the journey was only beginning. In the sections that follow, I will walk you through the transformative journey I experienced, week by week, as I witnessed remarkable changes in my skin. For years, I had grown accustomed to a persistent discomfort. Every morning, my skin felt tight and parched, as if it were stretched too thin across my face. The moment I woke up, I was greeted by a rough, almost gritty sensation, as though my skin was quietly pleading for relief, yearning for moisture and care. It was a feeling I had resigned myself to, a daily reminder of time's toll on my body. But everything began to shift when I introduced a simple yet powerful change into my routine. What follows is the story of how my skin, and in many ways, my spirit, began to rediscover its vitality. Week by week transformation. The first week, a subtle awakening. From the very first week, I noticed a shift, though it was delicate, almost elusive to anyone but me. The changes were not yet visible to the outside world. No one commented on my appearance or asked what I was doing differently. But I could feel it, deep in the texture of my skin. The chronic dryness that had plagued me for years began to relent. When I ran my fingertips across my cheeks, the dull, sandpaper-like texture I was so used to was softening. My skin felt more pliable, more hydrated, as if it were drinking in the nourishment it had been starved of for so long. What struck me most was how quickly my skin seemed to embrace the rose hip oil I had started using. Each night, I applied a few drops, and by morning, it was as though my skin had absorbed it eagerly, like a parched plant soaking up the first rain after a drought. It wasn't just the physical sensation that captivated me, it was the quiet sense of gratitude my skin seemed to express, as if it were whispering, "Thank you for finally listening to me." This subtle shift filled me with curiosity and hope, setting the stage for what was to come. The second week, a glow emerges. By the second week, the changes became more tangible, and I found myself pausing in front of the mirror a little longer each morning. My skin tone, which had always been uneven, a patchwork of redness and faded patches, began to look more harmonious. It wasn't that my skin was suddenly lighter or darker. It was simply more balanced, as if the oil had gently coaxed it into equilibrium. Those stubborn light spots, remnants of sun exposure from years spent gardening or walking under the open sky, started to fade, blending seamlessly into the rest of my complexion. What thrilled me most, however, was the emergence of a soft, natural luminosity. It wasn't the artificial sheen of makeup or the glossy finish of a highlighter. It was a glow that radiated from within, as if my skin had rediscovered its own vitality. I caught myself smiling at this newfound radiance, marveling at how something so simple could awaken such a change. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental, a quiet promise that this was only the beginning. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Weeks 3 and 4. External validation and deeper rest. By the 3rd and 4th weeks, the transformation began to catch the attention of others, and I received my first external validation. One morning, as I chatted with my neighbor Clara over our usual cup of coffee on the porch, she tilted her head and said, "You look rested. Are you sleeping better?" Her words caught me off guard, not because I doubted her observation, but because she had pinpointed something I hadn't fully articulated myself. My sleep had improved. I was falling into deeper, more restorative slumber, waking up feeling refreshed rather than groggy. I couldn't say for certain whether it was the rose hip oil itself, the soothing ritual I had built around it, or the simple act of carving out time each night to care for myself. Perhaps it was all three. The nightly routine had become a sacred pause, a moment to slow down and reconnect with my body. My skin, now softer and more supple, seemed to reflect this inner calm. The tightness that once greeted me each morning was fading, replaced by a newfound elasticity that made my face feel alive and responsive. Week 5. A child's observation. The moment I treasure most came in the 5th week, a memory that still brings a lump to my throat. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my 12-year-old granddaughter, Lily, as she colored a picture with her vibrant markers. She glanced up at me, her eyes narrowing with the unfiltered curiosity only a child possesses, and asked, "Grandma, did you put on makeup?" I burst into laughter, my heart swelling with warmth. I hadn't worn makeup in years, decades, even. "No, my love," I replied. "This is just how I woke up today." Lily leaned closer, her small hand reaching out to touch my cheek. Her fingers lingered there for a moment before she declared, "You look radiant." That simple word, spoken with such sincerity, struck me deeply. It wasn't about vanity or wanting to look younger, it was about feeling seen. For the first time in years, someone had noticed the quiet transformation I was experiencing inside, a sense of renewal that was beginning to shine through. It was a moment of connection, a reminder that the changes I felt within were starting to ripple outward. Weeks 5 to 8. A deepening transformation. Between the 5th and 8th weeks, the changes became undeniable. The fine lines that had etched themselves across my forehead and around my mouth, lines I had come to accept as permanent, began to soften. They didn't vanish entirely, nor did I expect them to, but their edges blurred, giving my face a gentler, less weary appearance. The skin around my eyes, once thin and crepey, now looked firmer, more awake, as if it had been infused with new life. What surprised me most was the shift in how I interacted with my own reflection. For years, I had touched my face with a sense of resignation, as if it were a canvas too worn to restore. But now, as I washed my face or applied the oil each night, my touch was tender, deliberate, filled with a quiet reverence. It was as though I was rebuilding a relationship with my body, one rooted in gratitude and respect. The act of caring for my skin had become a daily affirmation. I was worth this time, this effort, this love. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, even spiritual. I found myself stepping out into the world with newfound confidence. I smiled more in photos, not because I felt obligated to, but because I wanted to capture the lightness I felt inside. I began choosing clothes that made me feel vibrant. Bright scarves, soft sweaters, colors that mirrored the warmth I was rediscovering within. This wasn't about impressing others. It was about honoring myself, about celebrating the fact that I was beginning to feel beautiful again, in my own way. The power of the nighttime routine. That little bottle of rose hip oil, so unassuming at first glance, had become more than just a skincare product. It had become a symbol of renewal, a reminder that it's never too late to reclaim a sense of vitality. But the oil alone wasn't the secret. The true magic lay in the ritual I built around it, a nightly practice that nourished not only my skin but my soul. My routine is simple, taking no more than 15 minutes, yet its impact has been profound. It begins with cleansing, a step I never skip, no matter how tired I am. I use warm water and a gentle, fragrance-free soap designed for sensitive skin. With slow, circular motions, I massage the soap into my face, letting it dissolve the day's dust, sweat, and impurities. There's something meditative about this act, a way of washing away not just dirt but the weight of the day's worries. After rinsing, I pat my face dry with a soft, clean towel, careful not to rub or tug at my skin. Next comes hydration, a light, water-based lotion that feels like a cool drink for my face. This step primes my skin, creating a receptive canvas for the rose hip oil that follows. I take 3 to 5 drops of the oil, warming them between my palms to awaken their subtle, earthy scent. Then, with unhurried circular motions, I apply the oil, starting at my forehead and working my way down to my cheeks, around my mouth, across my chin, and finally along my neck. This moment is more than just skin care. It's a ritual of intention. As I massage the oil into my skin, I breathe deeply, inhaling through my nose and exhaling slowly through my mouth. Each movement is a gesture of gratitude, a way of releasing the day's tensions and reconnecting with myself. There's a quiet power in this act, a way of transforming time from an adversary into an ally. I no longer see aging as a battle to be fought. Instead, I see it as a journey that brings wisdom, serenity, and a deeper kind of beauty. Lessons in consistency. Over the years, I've learned a simple but profound truth. The secret to transformation isn't in doing a lot, it's in doing a little, consistently. My routine doesn't require expensive products or hours of effort. It's about showing up for myself every night, treating those 15 minutes as a gift rather than a chore. Since I began this practice, I've noticed not only firmer, more hydrated, and luminous skin but also a deeper sense of peace. In a world that often feels rushed and chaotic, these moments have become an oasis, a sacred pause that grounds me and prepares me for restful sleep. What to avoid when using rose hip oil? While rose hip oil has been a game changer for my skin, I've learned that it's not without its nuances. Used incorrectly, it can irritate or diminish its benefits. Early on, I made mistakes, and I've seen others stumble as well, so I want to share the lessons I've learned to help you avoid common pitfalls. One of the biggest mistakes is combining rose hip oil with aggressive skincare products. In my enthusiasm to see faster results, I was tempted to pair the oil with exfoliants or strong chemical toners, thinking they would amplify its effects. Thankfully, I resisted, but my friend Martha wasn't so cautious. She found an online recipe that suggested mixing rose hip oil with a toner containing alcohol to fade dark spots quickly. After 3 nights of this combination, her skin rebelled, turning red and flaky. It took 2 weeks of gentle care to restore her complexion. The lesson: rose hip oil is delicate and works best on its own, without the interference of harsh ingredients like acids or retinoids, which can irritate the skin or cause allergic reactions. Another critical point is to avoid using rose hip oil during the day, especially if you'll be exposed to sunlight. The oil can make your skin more sensitive to UV rays, increasing the risk of irritation or even minor burns. I learned this the hard way early on when I applied a few drops one morning before a walk. By the time I returned home, my cheekbones felt prickly, as if the sun had stung me. Since then, I've reserved the oil for nighttime use, when my skin can absorb its benefits during the restorative hours of sleep. This simple adjustment has made all the difference. A journey beyond the surface. What began as a small experiment with a bottle of rose hip oil has become a journey of rediscovery. The physical changes, smoother skin, a brighter complexion, softened lines, are only part of the story. The true transformation has been in how I feel about myself, in the quiet confidence that comes from caring for my body with intention and love. My nightly routine is more than a skincare regimen. It's a ritual of self-respect, a reminder that beauty is not about defying time but about embracing it with grace. And in that embrace, I've found a radiance that shines from within. When it comes to skincare, one piece of advice stands out as both fundamental and frequently ignored. Never use expired or low-quality oils. Rosehip oil, in particular, is a delicate treasure. Its potency hinges on proper storage and quality. If not preserved correctly, it oxidizes rapidly, losing its rejuvenating properties or, worse, turning rancid. Purchasing a bargain-priced oil without certifications, or one housed in a clear bottle, is a gamble. Such oils are often compromised, their healing compounds degraded by light exposure or poor handling. A rancid oil not only fails to deliver benefits but can also irritate the skin, doing more harm than good. High-quality rosehip oil is unmistakable. It arrives in a dark amber or cobalt glass bottle, shielding it from light's damaging rays. Its scent is subtle, earthy, and grounding, a natural whisper of the seeds from which it's pressed. If the oil smells sharp, chemical, or off-putting, trust your instincts and discard it. Always check the expiration date, and don't let a low price tag seduce you into a false economy. Cheap can become costly when it fails to deliver or harms your skin. I've learned to invest in pure, cold-pressed rosehip oil, ideally organic and certified for purity. Once opened, I store it in a cool, shaded spot, far from sunlight or heat sources like radiators or kitchen counters. This small act of care ensures every drop I apply to my face works its magic, delivering the nourishment and regeneration I seek. Rosehip oil, when used thoughtfully, can be a powerful ally in natural rejuvenation. But it demands respect, patience, no haphazard combinations with aggressive products, and consistent care. When you honor these principles, the results are transformative, not just for your skin but for something deeper within. The visible changes, smoother texture, faded age spots, softened lines, are only part of the story. The real shift happens inside, in how you perceive yourself and carry yourself in the world. For me, this journey began subtly but led to a profound rediscovery of my vitality, confidence, and sense of self at 78 years old. People often equate rejuvenation with surface-level changes, erasing wrinkles, smoothing skin, or lightening hyperpigmentation. But no one tells you that the true transformation starts within. It's not just about your face, it's about rediscovering the joy of looking in the mirror and liking who you see. It's about reigniting a spark that time, stress, or self-doubt may have dimmed. For me, this realization crystallized during an unexpected moment that shifted my perspective and set this journey in motion. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. It all began with a phone call from an old friend I hadn't seen in over a decade. She was hosting an elegant dinner to celebrate her 80th birthday, a formal affair with live music, sophisticated dresses, and a guest list of familiar faces from our shared past. My first instinct was to decline. Social gatherings like this had long felt foreign to me. For years, I'd retreated into the background, hiding behind loose, unassuming clothing, skipping makeup, and convincing myself I had little left to offer in such settings. I felt invisible, as though age had stripped away my vibrancy. But something about her invitation stirred me, and I decided to attend. That evening, as I sat before my mirror preparing for the event, I saw myself differently. There was a newfound glow in my skin, a softness in my expression that hadn't been there before. It wasn't the face of my youth, but it radiated dignity, serenity, and a quiet strength. I chose a dress I hadn't worn in years, a deep sapphire gown that once made me feel elegant but had been relegated to the back of my closet. I paired it with simple pearl earrings, understated yet refined, and applied a touch of rosehip oil to my face, neck, and hands. As I left the house, I felt a smile spread across my face, a smile I hadn't worn in years, one that felt like a rediscovery of myself. At the dinner, something remarkable happened. Friends and acquaintances approached me, their eyes bright with compliments. "You look radiant," one said. Another, a woman I'd known since our children were young, pulled me aside to ask my secret. I smiled and said simply, "I've started taking better care of myself." It was the truth. The rosehip oil was part of it, but the real change was in my commitment to myself, to carving out time for self-care, to seeing myself as worthy of love and attention. That night, I didn't just look better. I felt alive, present, and connected in a way I hadn't in years. The transformation went beyond my appearance. It was as if caring for my skin had unlocked a cascade of positive changes, a domino effect that touched every part of my life. My confidence grew, and with it, my willingness to engage with the world. I laughed more freely, sought out walks in the park, and rekindled conversations with friends over tea or long phone calls filled with shared memories. I stopped hiding, no longer feeling the need to shrink into the background. My sleep improved, too. I woke up refreshed, with more energy to prepare wholesome meals, read books that inspired me, or move my body through gentle stretches. It was as if the simple act of applying rosehip oil each night had become a ritual of self-love, sparking a broader transformation in how I lived my days. Rosehip oil became more than a skincare product. It was a bridge to a version of myself I thought I'd lost. At 78, I didn't want to be 40 again, nor did I need to. I wanted to embrace my age with grace, beauty, and joy, and this oil helped me do that. But it was only the beginning. Over time, I discovered other habits that complemented the oil's effects, creating a holistic approach to feeling younger from the inside out. One of the most significant changes was in my diet. I began incorporating more antioxidant-rich foods, vibrant blueberries, juicy strawberries, crisp apples, and dark grapes. These weren't just delicious. They fought the oxidative stress that accelerates aging, supporting my skin and overall health. I also prioritized hydration, sipping water throughout the day rather than forcing down large amounts at once. I learned that true hydration starts from within, long before you reach for a moisturizer. A glass of water with a slice of lemon became a small, joyful ritual, as much about nourishment as it was about pleasure. Physical movement became another cornerstone. I didn't need intense workouts, just gentle, consistent activity. A 30-minute morning walk in the fresh air, surrounded by the soft rustle of leaves, or light stretching at home to soothing music, worked wonders. These habits improved my circulation, eased stiffness, and lifted my mood. I noticed my posture improving, too, which subtly enhanced my appearance. Standing taller, I felt more confident, and that confidence radiated in my face. Sleep, I discovered, was a silent healer. I became intentional about my nighttime routine, eating a light dinner, avoiding screens an hour before bed, and creating a calming environment with soft lighting and a cup of chamomile tea. The results were undeniable. My dark circles faded, my eyes looked brighter, and my face appeared less puffy in the morning. Good rest was like an invisible elixir, working its magic while I slept. Perhaps the most profound change was in how I cared for my emotional well-being. I sought out relationships that uplifted me, reconnecting with friends who brought joy and gently distancing myself from those who drained my energy with complaints or negativity. I rediscovered the pleasure of unhurried conversations, sharing laughter over tea, or reminiscing about life's highs and lows. To manage stress, I adopted a daily mantra. Today, I will focus only on what I can control and let the rest go. It wasn't always easy, but this intention brought a sense of peace that reflected in my demeanor and, yes, my skin. Rejuvenation, I realized, is not just about appearances. It's a way of being, a daily choice to honor yourself with small, meaningful acts of care. It's about permitting yourself to feel vibrant, whole, and radiant, no matter your age. Rosehip oil was my starting point, a humble bottle that cost little but carried immense potential when used with intention. From there, the changes rippled outward, transforming not just my skin but my entire outlook. This wasn't about miracles or quick fixes. It was about discipline, consistency, and kindness toward myself. For years, I believed youth was a door that closed forever, that aging meant accepting decline with resignation. But now, I know better. As long as we're alive, we can choose ourselves. We can feel beautiful, complete, and at peace with our reflection. Rosehip oil was my first gesture of self-love, a simple act that didn't require a fortune or fancy packaging, just commitment and care. Today, after months of this mindful routine, I see the change not only in the mirror but in how I move through the world. My steps are lighter, my smiles come easier, and my conversations are infused with warmth. If you're considering rosehip oil, I encourage you to try it, not with the expectation of instant miracles, but as a way to reconnect with yourself. Apply it with care, night after night, honoring the stories etched in your skin and the life still ahead of you. Because every age carries its own beauty, and every line tells a story worth celebrating. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of rediscovery and self-care. I've shared how a simple bottle of rosehip oil, paired with consistency and a little love for myself, helped me not just transform my skin but reclaim my confidence and joy at 78. I hope my story has inspired you to see that it's never too late to choose yourself, to honor every line and every story your skin tells. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned from this video that you're excited to bring into your own life? Please share it in the comments below. It would mean the world to me to read your thoughts. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories and tips to help you feel radiant at any age. See you at the next one.